Hello, everybody. Tim here. I'm back with Melissa Baisi, who most of you will recall. We had a very nice chat a couple months ago. Melissa is a therapist you're in Calgary, right, Melissa?
Yeah, yeah.
Melissa is a therapist up in Calgary who is into attachment theory and very interestingly has incorporated successfully a lot of Neville Goddard's ideas with her clients. These are people with SP situations, as well as other issues that they're working through. And after doing, attachment theory work with them, Melissa has successfully integrated a lot of Neville's ideas with some of these clients, which is really interesting. And I think, personally, the kind of stuff we need to be hearing more about. Melissa, since we last spoke, I've actually had the pleasure of talking, not on record here, but like with a few other therapists. And it's very heartening and nice to see people incorporating these kind of far out manifesting ideas with more quote unquote normal therapy, and not only getting away with it, but seeing it work and kind of seeing it bring out not only, these different aspects of these manifesting ideas, but also kind of bringing out some of the best aspects of therapy. They complement each other so well, I think, if done appropriately. So that's a long-winded way of saying thank you for being back on.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And yeah, I know that, we were talking about attachment theory last time. I'm sure we're going to get into that. Have you seen, since we last spoke, I know that you have a program about attachment theory and then relating it to Neville stuff, and especially the SP stuff, because the SP community, as I've spoken about quite a few times, it's in my opinion, a very troubled place because there's so much desperation and there's a real lack of, I would say almost oversight. Like people are giving this really kind of like far out there advice, and they don't necessarily have like the therapeutic grounding to go along with it. And so I think it makes a lot of people desperate, feel ashamed of themselves. So I'm just wondering, how your course is going, and also just like, you've been doing this for a while. So like how your clients, people with SP issues, like how your clients have been responding to this stuff, and people who have taken your course.
Yeah, so people are doing amazing in the course. It is so phenomenal to watch people manifest what it is that they're wanting to manifest through this course. And so the idea behind it is that we want to remove the blocks to our manifestation. And oftentimes those blocks, well, all the time, those blocks are going to be emotional blocks. And that's what stops a manifestation from coming through. So if we can get in deeper, understand the roots of what's going on, remove those blocks once and for all, and then begin to manifest what we're trying to manifest, it comes in a lot easier and a lot quicker. It's not always fun to be working on the emotional blocks. That can be a little bit draining and negative, people might say, but it's not. It's kind of like if you don't take out your garbage. Like you can pretend it's not there all you want, but after a while it's going to start to smell, and you can put air freshener on it all you want, but it's just going to get grosser and grosser and grosser until you finally take it out. And it is the same with unresolved traumas, unprocessed emotions. It is going to stay inside of us, it's going to rot, and it's going to stop us from being able to manifest what exactly we're trying to manifest.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the lack of the acknowledgement of that is, a huge issue that a lot of us have, and just not wanting to look at the garbage when really, it sounds strange, but we should want to look at the garbage and we should want to clean up our house, meaning how we feel, how we emotionally, react to things. So I know that every person is different, but in your program, and if you just generally speaking, understanding that it's going to be subjective to a certain degree, what's your kind of like your foundational advice for how to clean up the garbage, how to start processing this stuff? Because that's, for me, like when I work with clients, that's the main thing that I'm usually working with them on, is just let's process how we're feeling, let's become more aware of how, because once we've done that, as you said, then the things externally start showing up. You don't even have to try hard or be trying at all a lot of time for the external improvements to happen if you start processing stuff. So
Yeah.
how do you go about processing stuff with people?
So it starts with a deeper awareness of self, a deeper relationship to self. Now, I know it's pretty easy for people to be like, well, I have a good awareness of myself. I have a good relationship with myself. If that's the case, then your 3D reality should be showing that to you.
Mm-hmm.
If your 3D reality is not showing that to you, then you have some blind spots, and it's worth taking a look at so that you can get those out of the way and get your manifestation. So first, it's awareness. And then after we get awareness of what we're really dealing with, we need to learn to deal with those different parts of ourselves that have come up due to our traumas. And we need to learn how to work with those parts of ourselves in a loving, compassionate way, not in a way of pushing them away, trying to suppress them, but rather kind of letting them come up and out and letting them have their big emotions and being able to tolerate different parts of ourselves having big emotions, and knowing how to soothe ourselves through that is what's going to begin to get us to the other side.
Yeah, I mean, that's so huge. That's like, again, I know we spoke about internal family systems, you know, that sounds like a lot of IFS type work.
Exactly.
That's huge. I mean, that really is just such an undervalued thing in the manifesting community, I think, is especially like, you know, I would say in the Neville community, there's like, people are scared, like, well, if I feel things, like if I feel this quote unquote negative feeling going through me, it means my manifestation is not going to happen because I'm not in the state of the wish fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, you're not going to be able to stay in the state of the wish fulfilled or anything like that unless this stuff is looked at, because there's too much emotional, energetic resistance. And there might be exceptions to that, but I have yet to really see them, or it's very rare to see exceptions to this. It's the energetic blockages, as you say, like parts, if we're using IFS terminology, they are there. And I mean, I think if we're aware of like someone's philosophy like Neville, and we start doing this IFS type stuff, it doesn't have to be IFS, but any type of emotional, you know, becoming more intimate with how we're feeling. And this will segue to maybe attachment theory, you know, discussion. Like, but once we become more aware of that stuff and process it and don't judge ourselves as harshly, then it is easier to kind of have that state of the wish fulfilled, you know, come to us naturally, and to be okay with momentarily letting this stuff be there and not worrying that we're not in the right state or something like that. It seems like a much more organic, natural process than trying to force a state upon ourselves, you know, which I just don't think works well for most people.
Yeah, it's like gaslighting ourselves, trying to
Totally.
pretend like something isn't there when it really is there. It's so unhealthy. I just wrote an email to my email list about this, talking about my predictions for the SP community. And it's my prediction that the SP community is soon going to get sick of just affirming away problems. And they're going to finally decide that they need to go in deep, remove the emotional blocks, and then get their manifestation. Because people who are affirming, yes, they're going to get their manifestation. If you do manifesting techniques, you can most likely get your manifestation depending on how hard you persist.
Yep.
But it's not going to stay.
Right.
So if you're manifesting money, it's not going to stay. If you're manifesting an SP, not going to stay. Like, there's just the big manifestations. We have to do the inner work in order to get those manifestations to come and stay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's these techniques that Neville talks about, and, you know, some of the affirmative techniques that we hear all about on YouTube, Sammy Ingram and others talking about, they're incredibly effective. But as we spoke about last time, and we both, I think, really believe, it's just like, well, you were in this, you manifested the situation you're in right now. And even if you put a Band-Aid on it, you still have the wound is still there. You know, the underlying energetic stuff is still there. I mean, inner work is inevitable. And I find, like, even someone like who's doing something as like straightforward as like just affirming robotically, which will do something, if, like you said, if you really do persist. I mean, I've seen clients, and there's just so many testimonials of people on YouTube, you know, getting a change in their relationship just by affirming.
Yeah.
it's not going to last. I mean, you have, but I will say, in the very least, people who do that, at least if you persist to that level, at least you are moving through how you're feeling. In a weird way, you have to process how you're feeling because you're affirming over and over while you feel like crap. That interests me a little bit. But obviously, if we can look at it more lovingly, I guess, more openly,
Yes.
that's much, much better. So how does that, like the IFS stuff, and again, IFS, I think we both recommend it as something that people can look into. You don't have to, like, in my opinion, formally do it, but to at least find out a little bit about IFS can be very helpful. It's helped thousands of people.
Yes.
And it's an accepted, therapeutic modality at this point.
It's the gold standard. It's the
Right.
gold standard for trauma treatment. So
Right.
yeah.
It's a legit thing, and you might be able to find a therapist in your area to do it with you, which would, again, people in the SP community seem like a lot of times reticent to do that. And like, that's in my opinion, you want to do that. You want to find someone who do IFS with you or something like that. But anyway, how does that link with attachment theory? And, I know you're talking about, like, I think we're emailing back and forth about like different manifesting styles. Like, how does this all kind of come together?
Yeah. So when we have an insecure attachment style, so that would be an anxious or avoidant or disorganized. Disorganized is only about 6% of the insecure population. The majority of the insecure population is anxious or avoidant. If we have any one of those three, though, that is going to show us how we manifest. So people who have an anxious attachment style have issues with self-worth, unlovability, like you were talking about, the desperation. All of that is going to show up in how you're trying to manifest your thing. So when you begin to heal your attachment style, you begin to heal how you manifest. Someone who's avoidantly attached, they typically go to numbing out, not wanting to feel. Well, we know feeling is the secret, and we need to feel in order to bring our manifestation through. So to heal that avoidant attachment style is going to get you further in your manifesting journey. So there's more reason to heal your attachment style than to just be healthy. It's going to make you a better manifester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, because I come more from the stress management side, and it's like, that's why I always say, it's like, if you just learn to be more relaxed, you'll be surprised what comes into your life unexpectedly,
Yeah.
And if you are gently, intentionally looking to manifest things, they'll come into your life more easily by being more relaxed. But again,
100%.
that takes inner work. What are some, simple exercises, or maybe not simple, but exercises that like people could do at home, or some you don't have to share them in depth, but like, what are some exercises in your course that like you recommend people can experiment with and do to feel more, basically, in the way we're talking about?
Yeah. One of the most important exercises in my course that I can give to your viewers today too is to be able to understand what parts you have inside. And so you go inward, you feel into your body, you feel into the physical sensations that are coming up when you have a negative thought or emotion. And you go towards that physical sensation with all your conscious awareness. You bring all that awareness up in your head, down into your body, and you begin to listen to that part. You begin to listen to what it's saying, what its perspective is. And then if you just want to write it down, what part it is, begin to develop for yourself a family of parts that you have inside of you. Hence the name Internal Family Systems, because it's your internal family system of parts. So that is what I would say, is begin to get to know your parts, begin to know who's running the show inside. Now, that is something, I'm not going to lie, that's hard to do on your own. You can begin that work on your own, but sometimes it is helpful to have a therapist or a coach lead you through to see the parts of yourself that you might not be aware of or might not want to look at.
Right. I agree.
We all have them. I have them. We all have them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that you're right about that. The people are not going to like that, in terms of having to see somebody or take a course or what have you. But I mean, I agree with you. But if people don't want to do that, it is doable. I mean, I think in the very least, I as I just said before, I would recommend finding out about IFS, finding out about emotional healing. You can look at some of Melissa's stuff. You can look at some of my videos. We both, we talk about this.
Yeah.
One thing I think that's interesting and very encouraging about, a lot of people outside the manifesting community, outside the Neville community, if you say you start identifying different parts of your family and emotional family, people are like, what the heck are you talking about? But the manifesting community is very open to obviously using their imagination. And so this is like imaginative work. In a way, this is imaginative shadow work, basically, where and what happens is, you imaginatively are feeling or you're feeling your body, and imaginatively you're going to make connections that you might not expect to make. It's pretty fascinating. I'm just curious, do you ever get into PsychoCybernetics, Maxwell Maltz at all? Have you ever?
I have it on my Kindle, but I haven't read it in about 5 years. You'd have to refresh my memory on what it's about.
No, I'll put a link in the description. There's a podcast episode I did. I just find that PsychoCybernetics is a really interesting link between a lot of Neville stuff and the IFS stuff. And he does a lot of, I'm pretty sure if you reread that book that you'd have a different, opinion of it. You'd like it probably a lot. It would probably resonate with you a lot more after being deeply into Neville and working with people. Certainly that's what happened with me, is that I read that book before I got into this manifesting stuff. I didn't realize it was a manifesting book. Then a couple years after I got into Neville, I picked it up again, and it was like an entirely different thing. I was like, oh, wow. But he talks, first of all, he gives a lot of really good exercises that are imaginatively based, that kind of, again, are like a link or similar to Neville stuff and to IFS. One of my favorite is he has this thing called the quiet room, which is where you basically go, you have a setting in your mind that you just go to relax each day. And you can go a couple times a day, you can go once a day, whatever. But he also gives a lot of examples of just becoming more and more, becoming comfortable feeling the way you want to feel. So if you go to your quiet room and just practice, it's like you're practicing feeling more loved, more loving, for instance. If you feel like you're just practicing that, and you're practicing that, for instance, in your quiet room, there's no pressure there. And so since there's no pressure, if you do it for long enough, for as much time, for over the course of weeks or months, it will start expressing itself in your external world. And this again links right up with what Neville says and some of the stuff that Richard Schwartz talks about in IFS. So I think that's a really interesting link. It's a great book. I would imagine, I know some SP coaches have talked a little bit about PsychoCybernetics. And I would imagine that would be one of my predictions, is that book and that approach becomes a little bit more popular in the coming years. I dare I say it, I'm going to also make the prediction that Neville becomes a little less popular.
I think it's already starting to happen, because I don't think that people are getting the results they thought
they're not, of course not. Not even close. I mean, that's the thing. So
unfortunate, because they could be getting the results. They really could be getting the results, but I think people are giving up.
I mean, I did a video yesterday, and we were talking about this before we went live. I just feel like a lot of this community, and I don't want to be overly critical, because I'm overly critical all the time. But a lot of this community is not serious about doing the inner work. They're not serious about doing what Neville is talking about. And in a way I get that, but this is not entertainment. If you want to change your life from the inside out, it's going to take work. And it's going to take more than just again, you can use a cool technique and get something to change quickly, maybe within a couple of days or a few weeks. But if you really want to change your life and change your long-term romantic relationship, or your long-term health, or your long-term financial situation, it's going to take consistent work. And what's wonderful is that it's very gratifying work once you get into it. But it's tough a lot of the time, and people don't want to hear that. They want it to be easy, fix your life in 72 hours. And, it's not like that. And it's we need more people just talking about it intelligently. We need more therapists and people in psychology, people in, I don't know, other fields that are talking about it. And I do hope, I thought 5 or 6 years ago that Neville was going to go that way, and we were going to see more psychologists bringing it in. and instead it got very popularized, very much like, trendy.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing altogether, for good and bad, unfortunately for a lot of bad. But how do you get like clients to persist? Is that more therapy than Neville? Or what are your feelings about that? Does that make sense, that question? Like,
it does. Yeah. So I find that not a lot of persistence is usually required when people are doing it right. So when they're doing the deeper emotional work, like that's what I'm noticing in my course, because the first part of the course is the deeper emotional work, and then the last part is the Neville techniques. But people are getting their results in the first part of the course before they even get to the Neville techniques.
I love that. That is so good. That's what it's all about. I hope people heard that. That's totally what it's about. Yeah. Especially if they're already familiar with the ideas. That's what I'm saying. That's what my son, like, if you already have some familiarity with these manifesting ideas, even if it's just in the back of your mind, if you start doing this deep emotional work, you cannot be focusing on a significant other or your finances or whatever, and it will happen anyway. And that's this,
Yeah.
Most people who do IFS don't know about the manifesting stuff, so they don't make the link. But like, if you're like in Melissa's course, you've made that link. So that's so interesting. And really, I think like it's interesting and powerful. It's like you do the healing work, the feeling work, you feel more.
Yes.
Stuff starts taking care of itself.
Yeah. So with persistence, I think, persistence has its place, because we do have to clear out the old 3D reality to make room for the new reality that we're creating. But if something is taking too long, and by too long, I mean more than like a month before you're getting even birds before land or anything, there's emotional work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just that simple. Manifestations come through pretty quick. Now, if you're trying to manifest $1 million and you've got $10 in your bank account, I'm not saying, if you haven't manifested your million in 1 month, you've failed. I'm not saying that. Of course, it takes time, but I'm talking about birds before land. So if you're manifesting money, say you're manifesting $1 million and you've got $10 in your bank account, something cool should have happened to you within a month, like finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk.
Exactly. You should feel different about money within a month. I don't mean to cut you off there. I just feel like,
go ahead.
I think I've noticed, like, working with people, and then also like the more general population, like when I used to be on Reddit some, and when people ask questions on YouTube, and when I used to answer them on YouTube, the thing I always like to emphasize is like, it's like you say, birds before land. What that means, at least to me, because making big changes, if you're 300 pounds and you want to be 120 pounds, it's probably not going to happen in 30 days. But the point is, you should feel different about what you're trying to manifest within 30 days. I think that's actually a great benchmark. The 3 to 6 week mark, there should be some kind of a shift. That's my opinion. I mean, I think you're more optimistic than I am. I mean, but you're getting results from that, which is fine. Like I do, I really do. I mean, everybody emphasizes patience, right? Because it's important when it comes to this stuff. But I completely agree. You should feel something quickly. And if you don't, it means more work on that subject, or in general, needs to be done.
Exactly. So persistence is important, but I would say persist more in doing the healing work, rather than in rote affirmations.
Totally. Exactly.
Gaslighting yourself. Don't persist in that. Like, that doesn't feel good. It actually
that's like mechanical. That's like, or like, I mean, it doesn't have to be mechanical. Hopefully it's not, but like, like what's exciting, and it might be hard, but what's exciting and emotional is the healing work. It's not saying like, I now have the love of my life. I now have the love of my life. I now have love. That's boring. I mean, it doesn't, hopefully it's not. If it's not boring, it's going to engender a feeling, etc. We all know about that stuff. But the healing work is going to make you feel maybe uncomfortable. But guess what? It's uncomfortable because it's also working. It's like when you're lifting a weight and, you're in the gym and your muscle hurts, but your muscle's getting bigger and bigger. And after a month or two, you notice an external change for sure. So
that's a really good analogy. Exactly. And after a while, going to the gym is actually kind of fun.
You like it. Exactly.
And then, that's the same with the healing work.
Totally.
It's actually kind of fun after a while.
And
even
it
in
will
the
heal your
beginning.
body too. It can be better than going to the gym for you physically too, seriously. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to touch base with in terms of like the course or just like your, observations you've made? I know you said that, people obviously have different attachment styles. Is there any other observations you made the last couple of months, like about that? And it's okay if there's
Yeah.
not.
So here are the things that I think are really important to manifest your desire. Knowing your parts. So beginning to make a family of parts for yourself and knowing what parts are at play. Knowing your attachment style and healing your attachment style if you're not a securely attached person, and regulating your nervous system. So that includes learning about your nervous system, learning that you can't really tell your nervous system to get regulated. You have to show your nervous system how to regulate. And so that is a more somatic approach. So do you remember earlier when I was saying to you about the parts, you feel into the body, you feel into the physical sensations, and then you start to interact with them? That's showing your nervous system,
somatic.
hey, I'm here, I'm with you, I've got your back, I'm not going anywhere, I'm here to validate you, your big emotions are welcome here. So really, I would say those three things: parts work, regulating your nervous system, knowing your attachment style. These are the things that's the foundation of my course. The course is called the Attachment Recovery Program. And so it's really healing your attachment style so that you can manifest. That's the point of the program.
Yeah.
So the point is getting a healthy attachment style. And once you've got that healthy attachment style, you can manifest whatever you want.
Yeah. And we'll put a link below in the description for sure.
Yeah.
And your contact information, obviously, Melissa.
For sure.
Yeah, that's great. I love to see just, your approach and how mature and, I know you're not talking about being patient today, but it's, it's a patient, it's patient. You have to use patience, and you have to use, I mean, the other thing, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but like, I always talk about like common sense. Like, you have to be aware of like how you feel. And like, if I wasn't in this weird community, like, would I do this? Or like, like, is this just like, there's often a thin line between like, doing like very strange, like seemingly delusional, but you feel okay, so it's not delusional behavior when you're trying to manifest something. There's a very thin line between that and just doing delusional, foolish behavior, and I think that's where like using common sense is kind of an undervalued tool. Certainly that's something I've learned more over the years. And that's, again, like why I like, IFS and like something like PsychoCybernetics to ground me a little bit, as well as the Neville stuff.
Yeah. So what do you think the role of persistence is in all of this? Where do you stand on it, or patience?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important to be patient, because you don't necessarily, let's put it this way. If you want a very specific thing, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself in all likelihood. And
Yep.
you have to be patient to lower that pressure so the thing comes to you. Now, if you do a more general approach, which is something that I've always advocated, I love the general approach. That's what's always worked well for me, because when I put pressure on myself, I don't manifest things quickly. When I don't put pressure on myself, I tend to get what I need, and more so, and what I want a lot of the time. A lot of the time, I feel like I think I have what I want, or it's coming, or something's right, and then it turns out something better comes down the line that I wasn't even aware of. You have to think about, I think you have to think about what you really want. And like, for me, when I think about what I really want, I mean, there's things I clearly, like, I want my family to be happy and healthy, right? Stuff like that. But then there's also like, for me, it comes back to once you have that, generally speaking, it comes back to the emotional stuff, and it's like, for me, it's like, how can I bring peace into my life, and how can I be gentle with myself and allow that peace to flow from within me outwards into the rest of my life, into my career, into my relationships, into stuff like that. That takes patience. For me, at least, that takes patience. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you think you have it figured out, and then you realize a lot of time, speaking for myself, I'm not saying everyone's like this, you realize you don't. I mean, this stuff is very humbling, I think, in many ways, but in a good way. And it's, spirituality and psychology, I think, they preach being patient with yourself and just, learning more about yourself and learning to love yourself more, and that, I hope it doesn't require patience for the people watching, but in my experiences, it usually does require patience to do that. It's not like you just flip a switch. These feelings, this deep stuff within us, a lot of it, as you know, has been there since childhood. And like often we have to come back to these parts again and again to comfort them, to talk to them, to be with them, and to say, like you mentioned, like, I'm not leaving you. I'm
Yes.
not leaving you. And when sometimes they get scared that you're leaving and they act up, so
Yes.
so I mean, I like patience as a cornerstone of this stuff. I can see why some people don't. I mean, Neville was obviously an advocate of persistence, but also patience. I mean, he's quoted again and again and saying, you need to be both persistent and patient. Later in his career, I feel like he said, things will manifest when they manifest. He said it might take a week, might take 6 weeks, might take 6 months, might take 6 years. He became more, I don't know what the word is. It will come when it comes, I don't necessarily agree with that either. I'm more with you, where it's like, if you know what you want, you should in the very least start feeling differently about it, and hopefully it comes to your life relatively quickly. But there's so much to this, and it's just, I feel like it's nice to have an open field and a lot to work with, as opposed to feeling like stuck because you're trying to manifest a specific thing very quickly. That works for some people. The large majority of people, they'll feel too much pressure.
That's so true. That's so true. The other thing that I'm shifting on is I do believe you can manifest a specific person. I do 100% believe that. And I do believe circumstances don't matter. You can do that. But if you are dealing with an insecure attachment style, I would question the person that you're trying to manifest, because most likely if you're watching this channel and you're trying to manifest an SP who's not coming through for you, you probably have an anxious attachment style, and you want to pull them towards you to validate yourself and feel loved. And if they somehow can come in and give you the love that you never got as a child or in your last relationship, then you will feel good enough. Yes, you can manifest that, but it is so short-lived, because they're going to come in, make you feel loved, and that hole, that emptiness is still going to be there.
Yeah.
And then they are not going to be good enough. And then the dynamics of the avoidant and the anxious attachment styles are going to be at play, and you two are going to be struggling. So look at what you're trying to manifest and be open to this or something better. Now, I know that's more of a law of attraction quote, or not quote, but a law of attraction.
Listen, people who are watching this, I mean, I don't know. My viewers know there's no freaking difference. If you don't know that and you're watching this channel, good luck to you. This is not the right channel for you. There is no difference. Neville used law of assumption. So what? It's a freaking phrase. I haven't even sworn really in this. They know. If they don't know, there's no way they will understand what you just said, which was brilliant. And you're completely right. The people, it's what we see all the time. My SB clients, the ones that I have, that's generally the case. It's something to work with, and to take your course, or to do work like you're talking about, and to do what you have to. You don't have to, but you're gonna want to do this emotional work on yourself. If you don't, the person comes back, guess what? It's not the right person for you, probably.
Yeah. And if you just heal your attachment style, then you can certainly manifest that person if you still want them.
Right.
Or you can manifest a new person where there's no water under the bridge. There's
exactly
all
such
of
a
that
better
old stuff.
Such a better option usually, unless the other person is willing to work on themselves as well. Then it can be great. That happens. I don't want to say all the time, but it certainly happens. But my gosh, just move on. I know it's so much easier said than done, but you can do it. That's why you take Melissa's course. That's why you do emotional work of this kind, is you can do it.
Well, I wouldn't say my course would get you over your person. I would say my course.
That's an interesting point. I like that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I don't want people to be like, well, I want my SP, so I don't want to take her course because then I'm gonna have to let go of my SP. No, you don't have to let go of your SP. You can truly and honestly manifest anything your heart's desires. Like that's non-negotiable. You can have whatever you want. But once you heal your attachment style and you start getting really honest with yourself, what you really want will become more and more clear. Because I think that when you're having a hard time like calling in your manifestation, it's because you don't really know what you want. You think you know what you want, but you don't really know what you want. And so getting clear on what you want from a healed place is how you're going to get your manifestation. Because it's not the person that you want, it's the feeling they give you. And that feeling you can get a lot of different ways. Not to say that you shouldn't get it from that person, you certainly can, but know how to give it to yourself first. And once you know how to give that to yourself, you have a way higher likelihood of being able to hang on to that person long term.
Yes. So,
yeah.
so powerful and important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for people who are struggling with SP issues, I hope that you, got something from this talk. And, I would honestly recommend watching it again for people in that situation, because we covered a lot of pretty important issues.
Yes.
Anything else? So again, Melissa's course and, her contact information will be below. If you have questions for me, everybody on this channel knows how to reach me at radicalcounselor.com. Melissa, is there anything else, you'd like to just throw in here at the end? Any other points or?
I think I said the points really clearly. It's really, really important to know your family of parts, to know your attachment style, and to heal it if it needs healing, and to be able to regulate your nervous system. These are critical components to manifesting whatever it is you want to manifest. And it is time for us to stop gaslighting ourselves with techniques, our inner conversations, our visualizations, our affirmations. Those are all great. They all work. For sure they work. But it's time to stop gaslighting ourselves into that stuff before we've done the healing work. Just do the healing work. It doesn't take that long. My course is only 8 weeks, and only 5 of those weeks is the healing work. And then 3 of the weeks is the Neville stuff. But yeah, you can reach me at attachmentrecovery.com. And again, the program is called the Attachment Recovery Program. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I love chatting with you though, Tim. We always have great conversations and
Absolutely.
get deep into it. So it's so much fun once again to connect.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again sometime soon. And
I would love to.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot to unpack here. And at the same time, I think both of us would agree. This stuff it's not easy, but it's meant to be simple and straightforward. And if it's simple, you can do it.
Yes. It's step by step.
It's step by step, and don't beat yourself up. Again, stop gaslighting yourself. The reason we see so much gaslighting in the community is because people are really gaslighting themselves. That's then projected onto everybody else. That's the behavior.
That's a good call. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. But not necessarily the most pleasant thing in the world, but it can be one of the most gratifying. So yeah, until next time, again, Melissa, thank you. I'm gonna chat for another couple minutes, but I'm gonna stop the recording. So thank you everybody for listening, and until next time, enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.